washing machine, fridge, smart TV, air conditioner, kitchen items amati makal khudingmakki home appliances idamak hoina waningai leite. Kaisampat Kunchen Hazari Lekai da leiba Mezo of Impalna ahongbo mamalda item khudingmakki up to 50% discount da offer pizai. Wedding set unalong matamdasu special oiba discount kaya su thamjari. Interest amatta yawdana 0% EMI loan gi kudong chabasu thamjari. Kudong chabasi mangan biraganu ngasi maklengsin biragu Mezo of Impal Kaisampat Kunchen Hazari Lekai.
Adom gari macha darkar oibibra? Supna gi minute kuntra gi manungda document ichang dana bespa mati Aprilia gi apamba model sing supna dagi lupa lising tara khaktang puthok piduna loan unilaw yabagi khudong chaba pizare. Ako pamarol kidamak contact obirau 9089895330 amadi 9615823252 Tulasi Motors Private Limited Thangmaiwan amadi Sangay Pro Kudong Chaba si Mangan Bigano ngasi mag-contact obirau terms and conditions apply.
Hello and a very good evening. Welcome to ELITETV's Open Debate in English. I'm Longjam Utpala, your host for tonight. Massive forest fires broke out in numerous places across the Langching Reserve Forest under the Henglep subdivision, Churachandpur district. The strong winds increased, destroying the fire almost the area of the forest which is under the Bishnupur forest zone, an official source said on Monday. The fire that started on Sunday afternoon is still continuing despite hectic efforts being made by various law enforcement agency personnel, including Manipur Fire Services, forests, civilians and police, the officials said. The fire started its tonguing out from the northern part of the reserve forest area and it may be caused by humans, the source said. Earlier, Manipur Chief Minister N. Singh had announced a 5 lakh rupees reward for the identity of people responsible for fires in the state's forest that broke out in Numaijing Hill. The government will give a reward of 5 lakhs to any person who provides exact information about people who caused wildfire in any part of Manipur, Biren Singh said in a brief post on Facebook. Now, forest fires often help to restore ecosystem, improve wildlife habitat, remove pests, diseased wood and invasive weeds. Sometimes fire is used to clean the land to collect minor produce, such as flowers, used to make beverages, and sometimes for jhum cultivation or shifting cultivation. But all in all, there are more disadvantages of forest fires than not. Let's talk about forest fires in our open debate tonight. Our topic for tonight is Chingda Langmei Thaba. Is it time we abolish this old tradition? If yes, why and how? Let me quickly introduce our panelists for tonight. Going from my left to the right of the screen, we have Professor Amar Yumnam, former VC, Manipur University. Welcome to ELITETV Open Debate, Professor Amar Yumnam. Next on the screen, we have Sapam Shyamananda, Career Counsellor. Welcome to ELITETV's English Open Debate in English, Samanda. And last but not the least, we have Mr. Wangkheirakpam, Environmentalist. Welcome to Open Debate, ELITETV Open Debate in English.
Thank you.
Once again, a warm welcome to our 3 panelists. Let's start off the topic for tonight. I'll start off with Professor Amar Yumnam since he's first on the screen. Well, Professor, forest fire, is it still relevant in today's age? Is the ban on forest fire justified?
I wanted Shyamananda to start a discussion concentrating only on forest fire. Since you have asked me,
right,
I will not look at forest fire as just forest fire. One of the biggest problems in Manipur, we have been experiencing and we are experiencing right now too, when we look at any event or at any happening, we look only at that. Forest fire, Chingda Langmei Thaba, we only look at Langmei Thaba. Whereas we don't look at a larger frame of, do we have what is the context in which forest fire is happening? What is the condition of the forest? Do we have a forest policy? How do we understand forest? Forest, whenever the way forest policies are framed around the globe, whenever we look at the forest, we just don't look at the trees only. The first thing is that for any forest is associated with communities. Community forests, and some people becomes forest communities by staying for longer periods. So we have community forests, and we also have forest communities. So this relationship with the forest, between people and the forest in the local area, we need to really appreciate that before thinking on anything how to go about. But unfortunately, that has not been the case in the case of Manipur. Well, whenever we think of forest, we have to think of the animals. We have to think of the water system. We have to think of the livelihood. We have to think of the well-being, level of well-being of the people near the forest. So when we were going to discuss the forest fire, Chingda Langmei Thaba, well, I was thinking that I should raise this. Let us first try to understand the forest, and in this, we should be very clear that the local people have their own traditional knowledge of the forest. The Valley people will have their own stories associated with it, prayer, things like that. In the same way, any community closely associated with forest anywhere in the world, not only Manipur, have their own traditional knowledge of forest. We have never tried to appreciate that while thinking about forests. That means now that the problems have come up, even water shortage problem things come up. So time has come for us to look at forest as a whole, and how to we go about evolving a kind of policy for the forest. Remember, it will take at least 15 to 20 years to get the results. But if we can start reversing the trend in which we are moving, well, that's a beginning. That's a beginning. What is happening today? Water scarcity and forest fire, all this, the socio-economic political dynamics. By the way, events happening in the forest, in most occasions, it turns out to be political and science problems, not just biological problems. This has been the case in most places, whether in Africa, in North America, Canada, and the US, or Europe. So we really need to understand these dynamics and evolve policies. And in this process, we need very clearly what has been the direction of the level of well-being of the people in the mountain areas of Manipur. Well, not only understanding, appreciating their level of well-being dynamics, we need to appreciate what exactly is the level of connection between forests and their well-being. Well, I'll start with this.
Thank you so much, Professor. I'll come back to you in the next round. My next question is for Shyamananda. Well, continuing with what Professor Amar Yumnam just said about the forest policy, well, we have the government's endeavor for protection of forests misinterpreted as targeting specific group of people in Manipur. What are your thoughts on that? You're on mute, Shyamananda.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I was trying to unmute. So yeah, thanks, Utpala, and thank you, ELITETV, for this topic today, which I think as I was informing Tamo Amar, that this is very dear to my heart, and I'll maybe narrate some stories where I have encountered some of these. So I think to your question, coming directly there, and we'll carry forward with many other points later on. But I think the forest policy, I'm not sure if many citizens or common people of Manipur are aware of how far is it. And for example, if I can quote, right, so the Nongaiching Hill Range, where the settlements of some of the tribal communities are there. So there's sort of a conflict saying that, okay, they were not there before and now they're there. So there's a lot of political dynamics, as Tamo Amar rightly mentioned. And the last protest where I read about this is that the forest fire in Nongaiching Hills, aka also known as the Baroni Hills, if I'm not mistaken, is where the fire was created by some of the villagers for what you call, clear up the trees, or rather the forest, so that they can convert them into the lands where poppy can be planted, right?
Okay.
So now I remember that where there's new license, the big license that has come in this Nongaiching area.
Yes.
I remember there was a discussion, and I think signboards were put up by the government under the leadership of our chief minister, saying that this is now called a forest, and declared as a reserve forest. And even other districts, there were some areas where some forest land was declared as a reserve forest, and the villagers were protesting, and even if you see it, so there is a conflict there which we have to resolve. But the forest policy from Manipur, I mean, about Manipur, I'm sure many things are written over there. How much land is covered.
Right.
It's all in paper, right? But in reality, if you look at it, that's where the Chingda Langmei Thaba actually becomes important. And I don't want to call this as a real forest fire.
Okay.
Now, it's not. It's the Chingda Langmei Thaba is a very old tradition that has been followed by our forefathers many decades or many centuries ago, right? Where at a time when we are dependent on forests, or rather the firewood for our day-to-day source of energy.
Right.
So the source of energy today has gone multiple dimensions, but at one point in time, the only source of energy to cook, to boil water, to do whatever is firewood from the forest. Now, firewood from the forest comes from, as we all know, from dead wood or wigs and all those, dried leaves and all that. But so the villagers, and I belong to a very, even though I live in Imphal, I have my ancestors' land is in a far Imphal East village called Ningthemsa Kul, border to a village called Okshu, right? So there, the hill actually, we have two hills, one in the front of the house and one in the back side.
Okay.
So those hills actually are owned by the village, and they do this controlled Chingda Langmei Thaba. Rather, every year there is a portion of the hill that they burn so that they can get enough firewood, and this firewood is distributed amongst all the houses in that village.
Okay.
Now, this is exactly what I think I was highlighting, that this forest fires where some miscreants just for fun, if somebody is trying to burn the forest, that's a different thing. It's a crime. Right. Or if, let's say, to what Tamo Amar highlighted, right? Due to rise in temperature, due to the dryness, if the fire was natural, the cause is due to the sunlight. It happens in California. Forest fires most of them are caused by natural process because of the dryness that increase, right? So, but everything is interconnected, as Tamo was highlighting there. If you talk about the scarcity of water that is happening in Imphal today, it's connected to the deforestation that has happened. So there is deforestation, where you cut down large, big trees to either export outside of Manipur. I don't know if somebody is using those forest trees, and I remember in one of the I think one of the political leaders in the past also mentioned that those trees are coming outside of Manipur, and because they're no longer, Manipur has no big trees in any of the hills. So if you talk about any big trees coming in and seeing a truck carrying those big trees in the night, if it's coming from outside of Manipur. I don't know how far that is, so I don't want to go there. But again, to look at it, if you talk about the maitan, okay, this is the charcoal, the wood charcoal.
Right.
The wood charcoal is produced only by burning a very big tree. It doesn't come from the small trees that is continuously getting burned for, again, that is for firewood.
Okay.
So the overall, coming to that, so the rise in temperature in Manipur, the scarcity of water that we're talking about, and if you walk around in the Imphal Valley today or drive around, you cannot drive in a two-wheeler moped without a mask. Forget about COVID-19. I have to wear mask because there is the dust, not just the dust mixed with the smoke that comes up from all the different types of fire that's happening in the hills, in the valley, because valley also the people are still used to using firewood and or I don't know whom to blame, but people are still using firewood for cooking or other things, and this charcoal for this maifu. Maifu should also be, I will not say banned, but we as civilized citizens should say that, okay, if I use maifu, if it's causing harm to my children, I should stop it, right? But that's not happening in Manipur, and that's exactly what Amar touched upon in the last episode of discussion, where we seem to be not aware that we are only hurting ourselves. So I think that awareness of citizens, that awareness of the policymakers and the leaders is very critical. Don't try to treat the problem at a very, what do you call, at a local level. It has to be treated at a mass, as a nation, as a state. We have to solve that problem at that level, Utpala. So I think I'll pause over here so that I'll come back in the next round again.
Okay, sure. I have a question for you for the next round. Okay, so I'll move on to Mr. Ram. Okay, the order has been changed, Mr. Ram Wangkheirakpam. Well, can you tell us a little bit about the transition? This jhum cultivation has always been happening in Manipur, as far as I know. So when did it transition from jhum cultivation to poppy plantations, and what could be the possible reasons apart from the drug lords taking advantage of this? Is this because it is more beneficial in terms of finance, or what could be, or could it be just because people are really not aware of what's happening? I think you're on mute, Mr. Wangkheirakpam. Mute. Can you unmute? There's still no sound coming, sir. No sound. Are you? Can you try unmuting? Mute. Or still no sound, sir. No, there's still no sound coming.
Maybe he might have to join back.
Maybe you might. You can try joining back. No, there's still no sound, Mr. Wangkheirakpam. You'll log in from the phone. Okay. Okay, we'll just wait a couple of seconds for Mr. Wangkheirakpam to come back.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Oh yes, perfectly. Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, sounds
Yes,
good.
please carry on.
So this is the.
Okay, I think we've lost connection again. Just a few seconds more, and then I'll probably come back to Mr. Wangkheirakpam. Okay, just wait for a couple of minutes more, seconds. Okay, yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, Mr. Wangkheirakpam, we can hear you.
Okay. First, I'm not an expert on this. I must definitely say this in the first instance, because this is a very complex thing happening. It's a complex phenomenon, and it is not just a case of Manipur.
Right.
Maybe its context requires specific understanding, but this is global in the sense that, like the UN, for example, recently in 2022 came out with a report on what is the title of it's UNEP, actually, United Nations Environmental Program UNEP report, which very clearly talks about spreading like wildfire. That's the name of the report.
Okay.
The rising threat of extraordinary landscape fires.
Okay.
So yeah, whether in the US, in Africa, or in different parts of Asia, there are wildfires going on, and that it needs understanding globally. And there's people are doing research, and reports are coming out of that. I haven't seen a report in Manipur on this, except to, there's a lot of blame game going on. So I don't know how much of poppy and wildfire is related. I'm not sure about that. Frankly, I cannot say that. And in its greater understanding, of course, there is a traditional and cultural use of forest. The relationship between people and forest definitely is there. And then there is the issue of climate change, and which cannot be ignored. And I think people have, tangentially mentioned that. The other issue that also is, what is, I think, the big gap that we don't, we still lack here in Manipur is the land use change. And the UN report also actually talks about it. The land use change, how much of land use change has happened. You mentioned about the jhum cultivation. Right. How the jhum cultivation is about land use management, and it is a very finely tuned, fine understanding, a good amount of knowledge. Knowledge bases what is there with people in the people who do jhum cultivation. Right. How much of that has changed and evolved, good or bad, and has led to, say, for example, cash crops. Right. Or people who are, or maybe poppy, for example. So how much of the change has happened? I think that needs more clarity, and it is not good to jump to conclusion. From the media that we see here, personally, I see, going, from jumping into poppy plantation and going into, communal kind of, hatred. That, I think, that indication is that I think this is really sad. Both speakers previously, I think, have indicated the fact that there is a need for greater understanding, and that is not there. And I think it's time. It's very similar with the idea, with the issue of water scarcity, for example. People are jumping into conclusion. We don't have water because people are burning forests up there. So it is not true. I mean, like you can't jump into conclusion like that. So I really wanted to start with the fact that there's a big knowledge gap that needs to be looked at. Okay. The other issue, the issue of I've been traveling in some of the hill areas, hill villages. Okay. So what I found, for example, I will not mention the names. In one village, its family requires about 2 truckloads of firewood. Oh. Because they're going to cook, they're going to, for everything, household requirement, heat up the water, cooking. It's cold in the winter. You need to warm up the kitchen. All of that. You can't. There's no shift. There's no shifting. There's no shift to gas. There's no shift to other heating system. Okay. So you need that. You really need that, because without that's the source of energy.
Mr. Wangkheirakpam, may I interrupt you here? Is it because they don't have the facility, or is it because they prefer to use firewood for cooking?
I cannot comment on that. Maybe there is cultural element to it. Okay. But also there is an element of need. For example, I went to one village which is a bit away from the district headquarters, and to get the gas, the gas, the burning, the stove, the gas that we use in Imphal. Right. To fill that's very long. You need to go to the district headquarters to fill that, for example. Okay. And it is costly. It is not just about hills. In Imphal, in rural area in Manipur, in the valley, I've seen that people cannot afford it. People cannot afford to pay 1,000 plus rupees to refill it. So the energy question, I think, comes into the picture, and there you need certain academic, certain research
Okay.
There's a big knowledge gap, and so it's wrong. Definitely, again, I must say that there's a big knowledge gap. There's needs research, and people have to put in money.
Okay.
And just making noise by both politicians and other people, I think that has to stop, because that will only lead to further, it's like a completely different direction. So let's not jump into conclusion. I think that's what I really wanted to say. And no, I actually want to emphasize the fact that each family requires that much amount of
Wood.
firewood. Now, traditionally, and in fact, even to some extent now, they know it that you need to maintain, control the fire, I would say.
Right.
So you're going to burn certain part of the fire, the forest, and over the period of years, decades of doing this, they have developed knowledge of how to do fire control. So what is known as indigenous and traditional way of fire control in Manipur. You have communities who are experts on it.
Okay.
And there are reports about it, and you just have to go into the reports, and people know about it. People know how people have been doing it for generations together.
Right. Absolutely.
So it is the topic. When I was given the topic today, that should we stop it? No, you can't stop it. The thing is, it may not be just cultural and traditional way, of traditional, fire burning. People already know how to control it.
Okay.
I think the knowledge gap is the fact is on the matter of, change in land use, for example. How it is impacting on forest fires, how climate change is impacting forest fires, natural causes,
right,
and how do you then use traditional indigenous knowledge plus scientific and other new fire management techniques on to manage large scale forest fires in places like Manipur.
Okay, just one more question related to what you just said. If they know that each, like you said, each household requires at least 2 truckloads of wood. So obviously there's a lot of wood the forests getting cut. So are they also at the same time planting trees so that to compensate for the firewood, the trees that they're cutting down?
That's you're putting me in a fix. You see, traditionally yes, but how much? Therefore, I think the question, there's of course a population issue and many other factors that comes into play. The land use change is something that I want to bring again back here.
Okay.
Because the traditional system is breaking down. The traditional land use system has broken down.
Right.
Therefore, whether those traditional system is working or not, will be a question. And of course, there's a when I talk about land use change, there's a question of profit also. There are people who are profiting out of land use change, and those will have definitely consequences on people, consequences on our water system, consequences on our biodiversity. So I think those are concerns that like it is there's a song, Chingda Langmei Thaba, because I think that is something that I think actually I was reflecting on that. It's like it carries so much of meaning. It's not just in the heart of some singer, but I think it has. Now I think that will have beautiful meaning to reflect on.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Wangkheirakpam. I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you in the next one. Yes,
Can
please.
I add something?
Yes, please go on.
I think the question that you asked Amar, I think the answer is no, right? In my experience, the answer is no. People just burn the forest. Those people who burn, they never plant trees. It could be.
I will not have a black and white picture on that.
Tamaram is very black and white. It's very black and white. Tamaram, it's very black and white. I'll give you an example. If you look at the way the trees, and this is as you rightly pointed out, and this is exactly where the traditional way of the Chingda Langmei has been there, is that if you look at the Uyung Pambi or any Pambi, and the initial trunk which has been cut, and it shoots up, right? It shoots this, and in about 3 years, it'll grow let's say to a height of somewhere around 15 to 20 feet. Because I also did a study on my own and to figure out what is the economic sense of why people have to burn the hills for the firewood. And as you rightly said, that, and I'm sorry to say this, but I'll slightly contradict to what you said in terms of the fact that Langmei Thaba should continue. Now the question is, why are they, I mean, first of all, we all know that, as Amar pointed out in the beginning, when we burn a forest, we are not just burning the trees. We are burning a complete ecosystem. And in fact, there's a climate change happening throughout planet Earth. And Manipur is contributing to it. So we are not carbon neutral, right? If you talk about carbon neutral, is Manipur adding more fuel to the fire, or are we supposed to be absorbing or rather emitting some more oxygen by having forests, green forests across Manipur, like it's completely green? Now, when will Manipur become completely green? When people plant more trees, people stop cutting trees, and people stop burning the forests. Now, I'll give you an example over here. I once, and very recent phenomenon, I was actually going to Andhro from this Komba line, and the fire was actually happening in front of my eyes. And we were driving on this road, which is meandering, it was moving, and the guy who was there, and he rightly said he was the one who was controlling the fire, and asked him, why are you burning this? He said that we need to burn these weeds. Just because we don't have the process of cutting the weeds, like the tall weeds, it's not the e-pambi that we use for the roof, but this is like tall weeds, right? He was burning them, or he was burning those, and it was like real fire. And fire in any form causes the temperature to rise. And if you talk about when I was a child, maybe 30 years back, Tamuram, every hill in Manipur, after the rainy season for many months, you will see this water coming out from the hillock, and you can just put a bamboo, the small bamboo thing, and then you can drink the water. But today, all this water has been dried up because of only one reason: the hill does not have any more plantation. Many hills have been converted into what I said in the beginning. If you go to this village called Okshu, and I'm just giving one example, and this example I'm seeing that is happening everywhere. That this the Mamang Ching, the hill on the front of this village is a tall one. They have been converted both for people spreading their villages, like people, the habitation has expanded, and one part of the hill they've completely converted into pineapple plantation. And what happened after that? The temperature of the village has increased, because olden days when I used to go there, I could feel the wind coming in, because see, there's something called microclimate, and I'll give an example of this. San Francisco has some 70 or some numbers, okay, I don't remember, but they have microclimates. Despite the climate change happening across the globe, if the microclimate is the vegetation, the tree density, and the amount of oxygen that the trees give out is in excess, it creates microclimate, and it keeps the temperature of that area very cool, right? We can see, if you go to any forest area, you feel that the summer is, even in very hot summer, if you walk in a forest, you can feel that the temperature is cool. It's just that, Tamo. So that's my point. But I think I just want to highlight that maybe I wish I'm not wrong, and it's more my gut feel and some of the data that I've collected, that people today are burning trees for firewood, and if the government implements the policies in the right way, if people are not able to go and fix the gas cylinder, there is solar energy. There is many other ways. There is I think a gentleman had come up with this. I follow this energy thing very closely. In Manipur, in Wangkheirakpam, it was a gung-ho thing. They were talked about so much. There's a guy who started this Yumnam. I know Yumnam again in the hills be difficult, but there are other avenues. And if we have to first reduce it. First of all, we need to figure out that if we give them an alternative source of energy instead of using maitan, and instead of using this basic uyung trees that are being cut left, right, and center, destroying the ecology, destroying all the birds and animals that comes with it, I think Manipur will be very different from where we are standing today. And we are adding to the fact that people are also using forests for cultivating poppy plants. That's a completely different dimension. because then the game has completely changed. But 5 years ago, 10 years ago, maybe poppy plantation was happening maybe 0.001%. But today the poppy plantation we're talking about, I don't know how many percentage, but it's gone.
Right.
I mean, it's out of control. So that is like, I would say adding to. I mean, if the rivers are drying up, I will blame the forest fire. If there's water scarcity happening in the foothills of a hill, it's because the tree is gone, and there is no. And if you expose the land to the 365 days in a year, the soil itself gets dried up.
Right.
It cannot hold the water, so it causes scarcity. That's my observation, and I think, as you rightly said, Manipur has to go and collect data. What used to happen in 1971? What is happening every 5 years data we can collect and figure out, because of the forest that has been cleared up for whatever reasons. Okay, we know that whatever reasons happen, how the ecology of Manipur has changed and how the wetlands are drying up because of all that. I think that's my. I'm sorry,
I think I know. Sorry to interrupt. Sorry to interrupt. See, I think it's like.
Let me also join. Your debate is quite interesting. Ram and Shyamananda. Well, every forest exists within an ecosystem. Ecosystem includes the social system as well. But when it comes to understanding of Chingda Langmei Thaba, say in 1956 and in 2023, have we understood the evolution in the meantime on why and how the Langmei Thaba or wildfire happening today, and what is the background region leading to this? What are the dynamics underlying this? What is important for us is not just to see the fire, we need to understand the reasons behind the fire. Because it's a social phenomenon. It's not a household phenomenon, it is a social phenomenon. We need to understand the social dynamics. Well, it is exactly where we have, unfortunately, well, when it comes to policy making, well, the policy makers, the powers to be, well, they understand the problem before analyzing. See, today's fire also, we really don't know what are the reasons behind it. It is very, very important for us to see to it that what can be the reason. Well, for example, what has been the relative well-being, say Manipur has different institution systems. In the valley, we have absolute property rights. We have private property rights. Well, in the mountains, we have Nagas, community ownership, and Kukis citizen. And even recently, Kukis wanted to permanently settle in the village, problem arose. Again, that's a wonderful thing in the sense that there is a dynamism.
Right.
Kukis were people who enjoyed migrating from one place to another, and today they are thinking of settling down in a place. And we need to digest that. So we need to digest how the livelihood of the people in the mountains have been changing. Well, selling the woods, say 20 years back, 30 years back, 40 years back, 50 years back, they could survive, they could grow. Well, how do less well-off people survive? They sell their resources. That is how they survive, hoping that over a period of time their own well-being will improve. But that has not happened. That has not happened. The infrastructure development, which was supposed to happen under the role of the state, has not happened. And passing through all those facilities, social sector developments, all those things have not happened. Whereas, of course, certain kind of a dynamism at a private level has happened in the valley. Further, who has taken the maximum benefit of the demolition of the forest?
Right.
There has been very bad demolition of the forest, but have the common people of the mountains got the benefit out of it? Who got it? So all these issues need to be properly understood. And now that we have a problem, it is time for us, it is time for the state to sponsor a study. Why it is burning? Why it is burning, and what are reasons behind it? Why the recent tensions between state and people. All these things need to be examined, and any kind of a policy should be based on the understanding of the dynamics behind what is happening. The time has come for us to do away with the earlier way. Okay, something is happening, I do that. Okay, some boys are making noise, just send the police and forget about it. No. People have been trying to survive by selling whatever resources they have.
Right.
Forest was the only resource they had. They were trying to survive on that, but that has failed to sustain them. Now, why is it that that failed? The state also should try to understand where it has been successful, where it has failed. We can't allow any group of people blaming. I don't think the mountain people want to destroy the forest, because the mountain people associate the forest with the deities they worship, with the growing up of their children. But today, despite everything, they are not able to grow, and relatively their well-being is declining compared to the valley, and the expected infrastructure for their growth also is not happening. So necessarily they have to survive. They have to try many things. So just wildfire and it should be stopped. We need to go much beyond that. We need to understand the wildfire. Why is it that? And we need to address the grievances of the people as well. That is where we need to have a proper understanding of the phenomenon, and policy interventions also should not be said, somebody wants, some responsible officer or some council or ministers, they want that. No, we want a policy which is based on the knowledge of what is happening.
Exactly.
Right, that's a good point there. Yes, Mr. Wangkheirakpam, would you like to add something?
You know, I know what I wanted to say was, in fact, I was saying that Chingda Langmei Thaba. I think we cannot dissociate between what is happening in the valley and what is happening in the hills. They are not the one who is burning. They Chingda Tai never said. I think that is. I think blaming the hill is not going to solve the problem, because that will. The biggest consumption of firewood is in the valley, whether it's for brick fields, whether it's for the winter maipus, the warmer, the firewoods for different requirements in the valley, the hotels, for example, in many places, and in fact, somebody said, corruption, and corruption is one of the, if you want to pay to get into a police service, I have no proof for this, so please don't arrest me for this. But somebody told me that if there's going to be a recruitment for police or IRB or something like that, then there were massive cutting of trees somewhere, because you need to cut and pay and then get yourself, get your child to get the job. So it is. So therefore, I think yes, I have said it again, and Professor Amar has also actually re-emphasized and again emphasized the need to have better understanding. I think that is where institutions like universities are important. You cannot get some people to just work in some university, and get people appointed from here and there, and again do some. I don't know whether you understood what I was saying, but then. Institutions are important, and you need to build knowledge system on this. Whether it's water scarcity, whether it is the current phenomenon of burning of Langmei Thaba and forest fire, all this requires experts.
A study, yes.
We need to build studies, and this is not happening. That is, and as somebody who's been watching environmental issues in Manipur, very sadly, things. They are not willing to go beyond just public drama. I don't know whether that's the right word to describe what's happening now.
So the real issues are not being addressed.
I don't think so. Yeah.
So I think we'll talk on that more when I come to you in the next round. My next question is for Professor Amar Yumnam, related to, again, what we're just talking about. Well, forest guards, the Chief Minister said that he's going to deploy forest guards. Do you think that's become a necessity? It's never happened in the past, and now they're going to be forest guards to prevent forest fire. Now again, this is all related to what we've been speaking so far, and now this is another step where forest guards are going to be deployed, and that would obviously mean more manpower being sent to the forest and to take care of it.
Well,
so are we addressing the actual issue here?
The fire which is happening now, we don't know whether it is the traditional fire which we have been saying right from day one, while we were children, or the recent fire is part of the protest by the mountain population. We don't know. And the forest guards are not a solution. Forest itself, by the way, when it comes to forest, the difference between forest is not like road. Road, just a policeman can just stand on the middle of the road, stop the traffic. The relationship between forest and people is such that there is something very, very natural, very, very natural, almost like it's not like the road, forest. Well, something which we don't find in other fishes, but we find in the forest. Even the year we've read like and everything. So when it comes to fire, the solution should not, that will, in fact, that can lead to further tension. If we put in more security forces, that can lead to more tension. What is important for us, once again I emphasize that, let us understand the reasons behind, the causes behind the fire happening today. And that is very important. That is very important. Because a group of people, we know the livelihood of the people in the mountains, they have not experienced the kind of evolution of better livelihood, evolution of higher well-being in their population. And that is happening in their society. It's a community experience. It is not individual experience. The community experience in the mountains of Manipur is that their well-being has not been experiencing a kind of rising. If it were a case of rising, the story would have been very, very different. Well, I can't say the reason why the fire now. Now we need to identify the causes for lack of growth and development in the mountains, and we need to exactly evaluate and measure the livelihood level of the mountain population. And then when we understand all these features, we'll be able to understand their behavioral needs today, we'll be able to appreciate their needs today, then evolve a kind of a policy. Because sitting in the city, I cannot think of evolving a policy for the mountains without knowing what exactly is the way the mountain population are heading or leading their life. And that is important. That is important. So that is much more important than anything else today. And the time has come for the government to sit with it. Please appoint a committee of experts. Committee of experts. Let the mountain population also feel that even if not immediately, the government is serious to improve their well-being, and that will have in establishing a kind of a trust, restoring trust, which somehow doesn't seem to be there now. So restore the trust, appreciate the needs of the mountain population, and try to evolve a kind of, remember in context, development is, the mountain population will experience a better well-being, improved welfare in their own context, not by coming to Imphal. So if they can be assured that they will be able, if not immediately, say, next 10 years or 15 years, they are going to experience wonderful improvement. And that, nothing like that for the governance to perform. And that would be a different Manipur. But today, the fire may be, by just sending the security forces, the fire may be controlled. what about tomorrow? Can we pause the security process throughout? No, once again I emphasize that let us understand the phenomenon and try to evolve a committee to establish the policy areas where government should be acting. We need to go much beyond firewood.
Right.
We need to address the well-being of the modern population.
Thank you so much for your views, Professor. My next question will be for Shyamananda, related to what Professor Amar just said, and of course what you mentioned in the previous round about renewable resources. So as Professor rightly said, there are a lot of villages, remote villages, which do not actually get, are not even developed to the extent that we would want them to. And again, as Mr. Wangkheirakpam mentioned about the firewood being, Imphal being the highest, or rather the valley area being the highest consumer of wood and firewood and charcoal. How do you think we can use solar energy, as you just mentioned? Do you think that's what shall I say, a good solution to prevent trees from being cut down or forest fires?
Yeah. So yeah, I think a lot of points we've spoken. I think Ram mentioned something very interesting about the fact which I missed out about the uses of a lot of trees in the brick fields and all that. So there are many components of where this. So how do we address the uses of this trees, or rather the wood as firewood as a source of energy across all sections, right? So not necessarily the. And if we talk about the population in the hills, or the remote hills where accessibility is a problem, delivering an LPG itself is a challenge, and the villagers over there do not want to use it again because it's very hard for them to go back. So connectivity, right? So the road connectivity becomes paramount in terms of how do we connect them. The distributors are well connected so that they can. So LPG is again subsidized. Today, a lot of subsidized rates are available for those, I would say, weaker sections of the community. So there are many ways. So we have to tackle one at a time. But as I really want to, I would say, agree to what Amar mentioned, right? There is a lot of, we should not be dealing with one piece of this problem, coming up one solution, putting a forest guards or trying to say, okay, who burned this, or whoever's found will give it. I mean, there are many things that I would say it's a very short, I would say, solution is what we are seeing as a. We need to study what has happened. Why is there continuous indiscriminate? I think I can say the forest fire is indiscriminate. It's linked to now the poppy plantation that we are seeing, but before the poppy plantation also there is the indiscriminate and Tamura mentioned something very interesting about corruption, and maybe it has happened because we know that people have to pay money for a job, and if a particular person in the hill, they own hill in acres and acres, and they sell those trees and allow somebody to cut those trees and buy it. If they get money, that money goes for the paying for the corruption and the job. So I think those are elements that needs to be controlled at a different level. But if we talk about, let's say if brick fields is using firewood for manufacturing bricks, what is the alternative? Is coal the alternative? Maybe yes, but burning coals again causes that pollution. So it's a different issue altogether now. So that can be again tackled. But to the, let's say, small villagers, a family of 2 and 4, we can install a solar, and Manipur has a lot of bright days in a year.
May I interrupt you here, Shyamananda? See, as you know, Bhutan, it's a very small country, but yet they've maintained a zero carbon emission. So, if they could do it, is it because of lack of resources in Manipur, or is it because of
No, it is not lack of resources. I think it's a lack of will. I think, as we all know, where there's a will, there's a way, right? so there's a will, we have to be willing. At the same time, there should be mass awareness of what an indiscriminate burning, if I can say. So we all know that indiscriminate spitting after eating all the different kind of pan and all this talab and all that causes, some streets in Manipur you can't walk. The smell is truly bad and the roads are messy. Similarly, if you keep burning things, and I'm quoting here I'm just diverting for a second. If you keep burning plastics, waste that comes in, any kind of waste today, first of all, we don't even segregate waste, organic, renewable, non-organic, even that awareness is also not there. So we have a very, I would say, people who are, again, very, I'm trying to find the right word, where responsibility, lack of responsibility, if I can say, right, that if what I'm doing can hurt the planet. And we have to remember that if I throw a plastic on the road and if tomorrow somebody picks up that plastic and if that plastic gets burned, it causes pollution, heavy pollution, right, when plastic is burned. Similarly, if I use if I burn the hills or if I continuously use, so it's also the awareness that we need to create. But if I don't use firewood for cooking my food today, I will go hungry and die. I mean, that's an economic problem.
Yes.
But rather than, if I do have an electric, and today we have prepaid system where, the electricity is not going away. Like in the past, it'll go away for, load shedding will be there, it'll go away for 10 hours. In the night, I have to use Maipu, right?
Yes.
But the alternative of Maipu could be, if I have a gas, I can use hot water bag. If I am a responsible citizen, I'll say, I will not use Maipu, I will use hot water bag because I can take the hot water bag when I go to sleep also. So it's all about how do I connect to nature. I think here I'm quoting that in the olden days, it's been quoted in many books, and I think even in a movie it has come out, right, where people used to, and the culture that, and Amar, I think, connected that thought a little bit. We have our, the Umanglai, deities and all. So we have many deities where we used to pray to the forest god. There's a forest god.
Yes.
But imagine every forest is destroyed today. Where is the god? Where is the deity? Everything is gone. We have Umanglais, but no trees are there on those Umanglai, except few where you have all these big banyan trees or big trees are there. But that's where we have lost the tradition of protecting our own forest. And that's here I want to quote a movie where everybody must have seen it. The movie Avatar. Okay, the movie Avatar tells us that if humankind continues to destroy the forest, planet Earth will become unlivable. This is exactly quoted in many forums.
Yes.
And in the context of Manipur, it is again, we are in a very, very, I would say, I don't know how to present it, but the level of awareness of many things that are happening at the global level, I would say the awareness level is very low. Very low, and absolutely. The responsibility as a person on the ground. And I think, certain things can be imposed. When a rule is made and I'm asking the rule to be followed, if the rule is not followed, then the person can be penalized. But if I say that this is how we preserve our environment, this is how I preserve my ecosystem, this is how I preserve my Mother Earth, because we want Manipur to exist for another maybe 20,000 years, I don't know. But I'm just saying that are we living in a way that we think that I don't care what happens tomorrow, I will only live today. That doesn't happen. That becomes, then you're a very irresponsible citizen. Yes. Not even for Manipur, but for India and for planet Earth. Yes. Right? So that's where I think that thought of a responsible citizen comes in. And that, I feel, is, according to my opinion, is very lacking in our state, is what I can say. Utpala, and to what Tamor Ram mentioned, I don't think the topic today, and Tamor, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to contradict to every statement, some statement you're making, but I'm just saying, the topic is not about Chingda Langmei Thaba. It's a word, a phrase that we have used. The Langmei Thaba doesn't, Chingda Langmei Thaba doesn't mean that the Langmei Thaba is being done only by the Chingmis or the village. I mean, there are many hills that are owned by the so-called Meiteis. So Meiteis are also contributing to the burning of the hills. Okay, so it's all a collective thing that we are saying over here. And if we do not ban this, the government ban this so that people who are intentionally doing it, or people who are doing it for a economic purpose, as I said, many villages today still burn because they are used to burning hills for their livelihood. But trust me, I have seen villages, if there is a village, there are 100 people, okay? More than 80 people in that village has got all the government ration, government facilities. They have gas connection, they even drink bottled water. Guess what? They still get a, I will not say truckload, but a sangari of, because only the sangari can go, the boulevard can go to the hill, they'll get one of the shares, and they do this sort of a voting or a lottery system. They'll get the firewood. Guess what? They don't use it. They just sell it to the market. Somebody in the village, somebody will also collect it, and they'll sell it. So now you destroy the forest, but guess what? It's not. It's the people who really need the firewood or that weaker section of the community society is maybe 20% in that village. The remaining 80% are well-to-do families. They don't even need those firewood. This is what I want to quote, and I've seen some villages. Maybe Tamoram has a different opinion, but I just want to highlight that, Utpala.
Thank you so much, Shyamananda. This will be my last question for tonight because of time constraint, but my last question for Mr. Wangkheirakpam. Well, we have protected forests, so, and then I would say there are protected forests in Manipur, but how much is the government, or rather, what I would like to ask is the government really working towards creating awareness to prevent forest fires, or are they just imposing, like Professor Amar Yumnam said in the previous round regarding deploying forest guards? Is the government even creating awareness of how and why we should prevent forest fires?
I will put it differently. The awareness for whom? I think the awareness, the government needs awareness. I would like to, the government lacks complete awareness of what is happening. Very important, and this is, and I'm sure many people will back me up on this. And introducing forest guards, this is not new. This goes back to the British days. And recently there was this ministers and all that giving guns, more armed power to forest guards and forest department. I think you have missed the bus. You have completely failed to understand what is happening. I think that is my first gut feeling when I saw that picture, when I saw the news item. Oh boy, things are gone wrong, because it's not just Manipur. Of course, there's a global issue at the same time. As I was saying in the first take today, the government needs to build its knowledge, understanding of what's happening. Let me tell you something. The forest, in so-called forest, there's no something called forests out there. There are, according to the government, they have protected forests, they have reserve forests and national parks and that kind of thing. And then you have unclassed forests. What is unclassed forest? And majority of the forests, out of the 72% of forests in the total area of Manipur, I think is less than almost 10% around that is under protected forest, reserve forest, that kind of category, which is under the state government or under the central government. The rest are unclassed forests. What is unclassed forest? The government is unwilling to say that this is a community forest. This belongs to different villages. Now, there are a couple of projects that have come in Manipur, and I will not go into that. There's no time for it. Unless you, and this is a global recognition, unless you are able to work together. In fact, this has been slightly touched by Professor Amar in the last take, that unless you work together, forest is a very sensitive issue. Unless you are able to recognize that this is community, this is our traditional land ownership, land holding system, land management system, forest management system, unless you are able to work closely with them, there is no way forward. Now, forest department, if you go back to history, remember all the forest bid office, they call it bid office. Imagine the word, the use of the word. Forest department is like the enemy. treated as enemy in the mountain. Now you're giving them guns. Can you imagine what is happening? You have failed. You have completely you have missed the bus. It is the ability to work together for forest management, for watershed, for spring revival. All of that requires very close cooperation, not guns.
Right.
So awareness of not the hill people, of the mountain people, awareness of the government, and that's the first thing to begin with. And unless you're able to recognize that, I think you have missed the bus.
That's a really great point from yes.
Yeah.
Shyamananda.
I just need 30 seconds because I forgot to mention something very important.
Yes.
In fact, Ram's point is very critical, I would say, so I didn't want to interject there. But I'm not saying something different from what he said. I think one of the major, from an economic standpoint, that we need to look at, and I'm sure Ram also must have done similar studies, because he mentioned about the requirements of one family, let's say of 4, and how much 2 truckloads of firewood he mentioned, right? So when I did this study in these 2 villages, and every 3 years, a portion, or in the other village, they had a huge range, a small huge range of hills, so they were burning portions of it every year. But every 3 years, a big portion gets burned. Now, the economics of that is that the amount that if you sell the entire firewood, they will get about 2.5 lakhs of rupees, right? And that's the amount of firewood they're cutting down. My calculation says that if you stop burning these hills and if you allow these trees to grow, it will grow taller and taller. Then what do? You actually wean, you actually prune, and you actually create space among this forest and start planting all the herbs, all the different wildflowers. On the foothills, you can start planting all the fruits. You can do a lot of vegetation. Today, imagine a lot of herbs that used to be grown wild.
Yes.
It's disappearing slowly. All the arrowhead that we eat a lot, which is in a wetland, it's vanishing. Because what I'm saying is that if we change, instead of trying to get money from firewood, if I protect the forest and if I create by planting, let's say I'm trying to remember this, right? So many wild fruits, okay? And I don't need to name. There are so many wild fruits. It can be grown in trees, including the gooseberry. Gooseberry is used for many, it's a herbal product, you can say, or organic product. So all these trees can grow along the forest. And the economics says that in 3 years' time, you may get 2.5 lakhs, but you can even earn double or even more if you preserve the forest and not destroying it, right? So I think this is what I can say, that if mankind has to exist or coexist with the forest, burning the forest and cutting the trees has to be stopped. Otherwise, the future is very glim for us.
That's a very great suggestion. Thank you so much, Shyamananda, for adding in. Because of time constraint, we have to bring our debate to an end. I'd like to thank you all.
Just one sentence, let me add.
Yes, Professor, please go on.
To stop cutting down the forest or not, Shyamananda, that has to be participatory decision of the population. That's not something which can be imposed. And if we are thinking of bringing the people into the marketization process, that itself has to be accompanied by an economic corridor. We have to create the economic corridor, thereby they can take advantage of fruits or those things. So we have really to look at it from the larger holistic angle, not just one aspect. Thank you.
Right.
Very well said, Professor. I'd like to thank Professor Amar Yumnam for being on the open debate, Elite Open Debate tonight. Mr. Wangkheirakpam, thank you so much for being on our show. And last but not the least, Sapam Shyamananda, thank you so much for being on our show. It was a very nice topic, and I think we've learned a lot. There's a lot we can still discuss upon. Thank you so much for being on our show once again. And to our viewers, there's so much we can take away. I'll just note down, I just jotted down a few. Data collection for forests is very important, and as to how the ecology has changed. We should understand the real reason behind forest and not start blaming issues that we do not understand. There should be sponsored studies to find out the reason behind, the real reason behind forest fires. And of course, as citizens, we should be aware and be responsible citizens. We should coexist with the forest, and at the same time, we need to create economic corridors for the people as well. Well, thank you so much for for watching our show, viewers. Please do not forget to leave your feedback and let us know if there are any social issues that you'd like us to cover on our show. Thank you so much. I'm your host, Longjam Utpala, signing off for tonight. See you again next Monday with another exciting topic. Stay safe and have a good night.